Welcome back to No One Asked Us. We are recording this Sunday night, just after the selection show, after the wild Big Ten championship. And then the selection show and the pairings were announced for the tournament. So we're going to talk probably a lot of basketball today. I'm Logan Lee. He's Craig Schote. Craig, how you feeling, man?
Ooh, roller coaster of emotions the last 4 hours.
No kidding. Tell me about it.
Man, we were just talking, kind of preparing for the show, and I was asked before the game, are you nervous? And I was like, I mean, yeah, it's the Big Ten championship, but I feel like Illinois has positioned themselves for a 1 seed. So they're playing well. I'm not worried about, going into the tournament on a skid or on a losing streak. So I was like, it would be nice to win, but if we lose, I'll be okay. Ohio State's good. It's not like we lost to a 12 seed in the Big Ten tournament. And then Illinois comes out and 17-point lead, I believe, in the first half. I was like, I normally sit up, like really attentive during games. Illinois had the 17-point lead. I kicked back, kicked my feet up on the ottoman. I was like, all right, we're good. And then they started chipping away. And it was role reversal for Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament because they had blown double-digit leads their first 3 games. And they started making the broadcast started making the point about how they're playing their 4th game in 4 days. And I was like, all right, they're going to tire in the second half. Illinois will get another big lead going. And Ohio State just didn't go away. I said it a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, that they've outplayed their roster a little bit. They've overperformed a little bit this year, but I don't think they have. I think they're really good. They're a top 10, maybe top 5 team in the country. Dwayne Washington I tweeted it during the game. He's a bucket. He can get to the rim. He can shoot it from outside. He's really impressive. EJ Liddell had a little bit of an off game, I think. I didn't look at the final box score, but it was a battle, which was par for the course for the Big Ten this year. 11 or 12 quality teams in the Big Ten this year. 9 teams make the tournament. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it was about what I expected. I'm glad Illinois pulled it out. A lot of unsung heroes today. Kind of Georgie played a big role when Kofi got in foul trouble. Curbelo has been stepping up for the past 2-3 weeks. But it was emotional. A lot of emotions in today's game. Glad Illinois came out, first championship since 2005. And I was thinking about this when I was driving today from my hometown, that the last Illinois Big Ten championship was closer to the day I was born than the current day. It was 2005. So I would have been 15 and I'm 31 now. So it's been 16 years. And that happened when I was 15, which kind of says a lot about the last 16 years, but it was fun, man. Heart racing. You said you were pacing around the whole second half. I was standing and pacing for the last 5 minutes plus the overtime. So, but it was fun. I would rather have these emotions than being the 12 seed and losing on Thursday or Friday.
Right. No, I agree. I had a lot of the same feelings you did. Obviously, we were watching the same game. I think going into it, I obviously thought Illinois could beat Ohio State. They just beat them, not that long ago. A couple of concerns I had, and this is kind of a moot point because of what Ohio State had to do, but I was all week long, I kept thinking about the last time Illinois had to play 3 games in 3 days, and that was at the very beginning of the season. They did not play very well against Ohio. Again, these are 2 separate issues. One was in November, one was now. I mean, we're talking Ohio State had to play 4 games in 4 days, so that wasn't really ever going to be an excuse, but that was on my mind. Because that team, at the very beginning of the season came out and just routed 2 teams in Champaign and then struggled with Ohio, who, was a tournament team. We'll talk about them as well. But yeah, it was definitely a roller coaster. All week was, those first couple games, the big win against Rutgers and then Iowa, were definitely nice to have. I didn't think that's what we were going to see this game. But when Illinois had a 17-point lead, I thought maybe this turns out this way.
Yeah.
Obviously, I knew better that wasn't likely. And Ohio State, they were just making shots. And you talked about it. I mean, Illinois really got big production from some other guys. It wasn't Io. I mean, Io still, had a quiet whatever 15 points or whatever he had, 16 points. But him and Kofi,
he made some shots.
No, he did, and down the stretch he did. And that's what we needed him to do. But I knew at some point that would turn up. But Ohio State just kept chipping away, like that whole ever since they had Illinois had that 17-point lead. It was just slowly that whole time.
Yeah.
But it definitely made it entertaining. And as you said, I would rather be in these situations than what it has been, the last decade or so of, getting out in the first or second round of the tournament and not even playing past the Big Ten tournament. So happy that we're here. It was definitely one heck of a ride for sure.
Yeah, it was a crazy week. The Friday night Rutgers game was kind of in hand early. Never really felt nervous for that one. Even the Iowa game, I feel like Illinois controlled 90% of it. They made it close a little late, but Illinois continued to I felt like they never lost control of that game. I wasn't expecting this close of a game. I said Illinois by 8 pregame to one of my friends. And I thought that would be a double-digit game for the most of the game, and then Ohio State would hit some threes maybe later or something to make it an 8-point game. But I wasn't expecting this. Was not expecting overtime. Io takes that last shot from 30 feet. I mean, and I tweeted it. I think he's a better decision maker than that. Illinois had the ball for 25 seconds. I mean, you had plenty of time to get to the rim. They called 45 fouls in the game. If you go with 10 seconds, they'll likely call a foul if there's contact. So I did not like that decision, and I was worried about overtime. I really was worried about overtime today, Sunday. I'm trying not to date our show here. Worried about overtime because Kofi had 4 fouls the whole time. I thought Ohio State would go right at him and he wouldn't pick up his 5th. Georgie had already fouled out. So I was concerned, but I was pleasantly surprised with the effort in the second or in the overtime. A couple key steals. DeMonte got some steals, but I think the depth of this team has really developed over the last 2 weeks, and that's what's going to make them a tough out in this tournament because they've got contributions.
Yes.
Contributions. Am I emphasizing the right syllable here? Grandison's playing well. He had a little bit of an off day today, but you trust him more. DeMonte, he's a senior. DeMonte and Trent made senior plays down the stretch. So the depth has really developed, and I think that's a good sign for Illinois heading into the big dance for the first time in 8 seasons.
Yeah, you can just count on so many guys to chip in. I think that's that's just something that obviously has developed over time, as you talked about. This is not the same team that played Baylor back in December. It's not. And, I'm not trying to predict the future and, say Illinois is going to win it all by any means, but it's not the same team. They are playing so well right now.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to have a fan advantage in Indy. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are going to go for them. We'll talk about some of the matchups here in the tournament here in a little bit, but I just, they're firing on all cylinders right now. This is exactly what you want to happen at this point of the season. And we can finally hang a banner. Hang a banner. Hand a banger. Leave it in.
Oh, it's staying in. I spend as little time editing this as I can, so this is one take.
Well, they can hang a banger. Hang a banner. God, I can't even say it. You know what I'm talking about. It's State Farm Center, something that we were hoping would happen, but nothing came of that from the regular season. We're not going to dwell on that, but they can do it now. So
yeah, and I listen to the post games pretty much every game what I can. and they're embracing the fact that they think that they're Big Ten regular season champs. And
them.
I love that. I think there is an argument. They're not going to get that championship from the Big Ten. No. I think everyone maybe not over it, but we've moved past that fact. There's an argument for it, but it's not going to happen. And I jokingly made a little banner that they could hang most Big Ten wins, which from deciphering Josh Whitman's letter to fans and teams and what they're saying, I would not be surprised if they do that, if they hang something like that. So that could be coming, some sort of most wins in the Big Ten banner for this season. But now you get that for sure, undisputed. You are the Big Ten tournament champs. So that's huge for this program. I was actually out of state this weekend. I was in Tennessee this weekend for one day real quick. And I wore some Illinois gear while we were walking around town. And I got stopped at, we went in a restaurant to pick up some food. And they had the Michigan-Ohio State game on the big screen. And there was a father and son kind of standing next to us also waiting. And they saw that I was wearing Illinois and watching the game very intently, and they asked who we had in the other who was in the other semifinal. I said Illinois, Iowa, and pointed out they noticed my Illinois gear, and they said, "Are you surprised that Brad Underwood has the program where they are this quick?" And I hadn't really thought of that, and I answered them no, just because Io committed year one, I guess he committed year one. And when you get that kind of player and it works, and then you get Kofi to go with him and they come back, this is what was supposed to happen. Once Io committed, once Kofi committed, and they say this is where they were supposed to be. So my answer to his question that I hadn't really thought of until then was no, I'm not surprised. Am I surprised that they're this good? I think I am a little bit.
I am.
I expected maybe a Sweet 16 Elite 8 season, but we're talking national championship here, which is amazing for this program and the rise.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I don't know that I would have seen this coming. To kind of, go off what you were talking about. I don't know that I'm surprised either, just knowing just the fact that you bring in Io, who is a generational type of talent. He's an elite type of player that can really turn a program on its head, and that's what he did. Going into the season, we did have high expectations, especially once we knew that both Io and Kofi were going to come back and play this year, so expectations were through the roof. Yeah. I remember talking with people on Twitter and stuff about it, and trying to compare the season to 04-05, and it was hard to do that just because that team was just so good from the very beginning, from the get-go. And this team was not that case. I mean, they were good, but they struggled. I mean, this was not
they were 9-5 at one point.
Yeah, I mean that 05 team was a different animal. They just ran through the entire schedule up until the very end. But now at this point in the season, I mean, it's hard to see many teams that I would say are better than them. I'm sure there are a couple. I mean, we'll talk about later, but as of right now, I mean, they're one of the teams to beat. And is it surprising? Probably a little bit that they are that good. But I'm just glad we're here. It's been, as you talked about earlier, it's been a long time since Illinois has been any sort of relevant, and for them to go from where they were when Brad took over the program to where they are now in just a few short years is incredible. And I am ecstatic that I can experience this, and it's going to be a fun March.
Yeah, they touched on that in the broadcast. I think today, Bill Raftery and was that Grant Hill? I think that was Grant Hill.
Yeah.
Touched about how the cupboard was bare when Brad got here. I think you probably had DeMonte and Trent are the only two that are left from when Brad got here. So this is his roster. This is his guys, and he's got the right guys. So it's fun. It's fun, and I hope we're still talking about it for at least a couple more weeks.
What I think is the most one of the things I really enjoy thinking about with this team is, Trent comes in and is a really good player as a freshman already.
Mhm.
And then Io comes and Trent has to take a back seat. And Georgie comes in and has a really good freshman season. And then Kofi comes in and Georgie takes the back seat.
Yep.
And it hasn't really affected either of those players. They've all contributed to, what they're able to do. Georgie can come off the bench and score 10 points in a row to keep things, keep Illinois in the lead and make it so that Kofi being on the bench isn't as big of a deal. And Trent can still sink a three and play great defense, and their roles have changed. But they're still capable of doing what they're able to do, and that's been huge for this team.
Yeah, I think Trent and DeMonte, albeit they've been there the longest, they've changed the most since they came in their freshman year. Trent came in, and like you said, he might have been the team's leading scorer his freshman year.
He was.
If not leading, he was towards the top. He was scoring probably 14 points a game, 12 or 14 points a game. And now he's close to that average. I think he still might be scoring double figures, but he's the defensive stopper now. His freshman year, he didn't play a lick of defense. And then as far as DeMonte, if he put up a shot, you cringed his freshman, sophomore, even last year, you cringed. And now he's second or third in the country in 3-point shooting. So props to those guys. Today. Yeah, props to those guys for buying into the everyday guys that Brad Underwood preaches, and even Georgie, like you said, he holds the single game freshman scoring record. Scored 35, beat Deion Thomas's record his freshman year, and he might have scored 35 points the rest of his career. Joking, of course, because he did have a huge game today. But I think my point is that the guys buy into new roles when new guys come in, and that says a lot about a program.
No, it's been huge, and it's definitely led them to love them this far. And I think we're all hoping that there's some more left in the tank. I think there should be. Yeah. They're one of the number one seeds for a reason.
Yep.
So earlier this week, before the tournament started, the Big Ten announced their all-conference basketball teams, voted on by the media and by the coaches. From Illinois standpoint, 2 first-teamers. Not a huge surprise there, but that's pretty epic for this team to have that with both Kofi and Io. Trent was an honorable mention selection by both the coaches and the media. Curbelo was a all-freshman team candidate selection. And Trent was all defensive team. The big one for me, though, from an Illinois standpoint, was Curbelo, 6th man of the year. That was huge. Yep. I mean, as a freshman, he's been great off the bench. He's been huge for them off the bench. And we talked about him last week, just, wasn't really sure what kind of player he was going to be halfway through the season. But the way he's turned it on, again, since you tweeted about him, it's really changed his game, but that was huge for him.
Yeah. I think we all knew it was possible, but I don't think we thought it was possible this year. He's so dynamic with the ball in his hands, and when he comes in the game, things happen. Sometimes they're not good things, but things happen when he comes in the game. And I would probably say 4 or 5 times a game, my jaw drops. And it's not always about him scoring, or it's like, how did he get through that triple team?
Yep.
How does he dribble? How does he do that?
I had that thought in the championship game. There was the play towards the end of the game where they inbounded to him, and he dribbled between like 2 or 3 guys, and I'm like, he just makes me so nervous with the ball in his hands. But you mentioned earlier, the good and the bad, and he's been great. There's been a lot more good with him here the last few weeks of the season. So for him to get that as a freshman was awesome.
Yeah, I just thought of this too. And I know we don't want to compare 05 to 2011 or 2021.
What year is this?
Right. But I find it a little weird that it literally just popped in my head that our 2 best guards this year, number 11 and number 5.
Yeah.
And this year, or in 2005, you got number 11, number 5. I just thought of that, and I wanted to throw that out there. That's all I got about that. It's just weird. And I know Illinois doesn't retire numbers. They honor numbers.
There's a lot of numbers hanging up at the rafters.
Yeah.
None of them are retired.
Yeah. Yep.
I always thought that was weird.
Well, I mean, and it's tough to retire a basketball number, I guess. You have to really, really, really be like multi All-American. I saw Iowa is retiring Luka Garza's number 55, which is probably warranted.
Well, when you wait as long as, I mean, Illinois went all those years without retiring numbers. So like once you wait that long, like you can't just go back and start taking all these numbers away. So.
And there is actual criteria to get a Illinois jersey number honored even. I don't know the parameters, but you have to be like an All-American, or I don't know. You could look them up on their website, I'm sure. But
I bet there's a couple of those on this team.
Yes. 11, Ayo Dosunmu, and Kofi Coburn is really close. I think if he gets consensus second team this year, I think he could raise a 21 as well.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Luka Garza. He was the player of the year. Both the coaches and the media voted him in the conference. Likely going to be the player of the year in the country. He's a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
I hate watching him play against Illinois, but I love watching him play.
Yeah.
He's really talented.
Yeah, and I don't think that was the wrong choice. I know everyone in Champaign, and me included, think Ayo is probably the best player in college basketball. I think if you're starting a team, you probably pick Ayo to work around. But what Luka does, it's phenomenal. I mean, he's probably the best big in the country. So you can't deny that he is deserving of the Big Ten Player of the Year. But I would like to think that Ayo was like 1 vote point behind him, because it was probably that close. What I thought was cool this week, though, Matt Randazzo up in the Quad Cities. He's a TV guy up in the Quad Cities. So they cover both Iowa and Illinois. So he caught up with Luka's dad, Frank, and he asked Frank about Ayo. And if you haven't seen or listened to it, go listen to it, because it like flipped 180 what I thought of Luka Garza. And Luka's not even involved. He didn't say anything, but just the kind words and the praise that Luka Garza had for Ayo was really, really cool to see. You don't see that a lot. So it was a great idea by Matt Randazzo to interview him and ask about Ayo. And then the next day, after I saw, I think it was Friday, Frank Garza went to the Dosunmu family in the stands at Lucas Oil Stadium, and someone snapped a picture of them hugging. And then Frank Garza and Kwame Dosunmu were going back and forth on Twitter about when COVID's done, they want to sit down and have a drink and dinner and kind of dissect this whole crazy 2 years that their sons have been on, and their kind of collision course here in the Big Ten. So if they'll allow, I would love to set up cameras and do like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle type like documentary on that conversation, because
so are you Oprah?
I would be Oprah. I would be willing. Okay. I would be Oprah. Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
I might not live up to Oprah's standards by any means. But yeah, I thought that was really cool, and it changes a lot of my perception about Luka Garza. I still don't necessarily like the Iowa program, but it kind of opened eyes to Garza's upbringing and his dad and stuff, which was really cool. If you haven't checked it out, you really need to check it. It's only a minute answer. It's not a full story. It's just a minute answer from Frank Garza, but it was really cool. I really liked that this week.
And real quick, I think it helps knowing that Illinois has beat Iowa the last few times they've matched up.
3 in a row.
I might feel a little differently about the situation had that been a different outcome those last 3 games. But,
that's true.
It's kind of nice to think about.
That's true. Also, I saw Marley Weirda at WCIA tweeted a picture of, if you go through her Twitter, it will not be hard to find, of the Illinois 5 standing at the half court and the Iowa 4 standing at the half court while Iowa was taking a flagrant free throw, and Iowa fans got a hold of it and they are not happy. But I thought Marley's tweet was one of the best things of the weekend.
So, I agree. Jordan Bohannon's been a little active in that conversation.
Jordan Bohannon, Iowa point guard got a hold of it and was like, "What is this crap?" But he's just salty.
Yeah, a little bit. So after the Big Ten championship, win for the Illini. We had the selection show and the pairings were announced. So the Illini, as expected, are a number 1 seed. They're one of 4 with Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan. Illinois got an interesting draw, if you ask me. We'll kind of run through it here a little bit. They start the first round. They're going to play Friday. We don't know times as of recording, but it'll be on Friday, which means their second round game would be on Sunday. Illinois is going to draw Drexel in the first round. Don't know much about Drexel.
No.
But that potential second round is a doozy. The Chicago media is going to have a heyday with this one. Potentially Loyola out of Chicago, out of the Missouri Valley Conference, or it could be Georgia Tech.
2-bid league, Missouri Valley, 2-bid league.
2-bid league. We'll talk on that in a little bit here. But real quickly, I'll just go through the whole bracket on, at least their quadrant, and then kind of talk about the matchups. But Loyola and Georgia Tech are the 8 and the 9. Tennessee's the 5. Oregon State's the 12. Oklahoma State the 4. And then they'll get Liberty, who's the 13. And then at the bottom half of that, it's San Diego State the 6. Syracuse is the 11. West Virginia's the 3. Morehead State's the 14. Clemson's the 7. Rutgers got in as a 10. And then Houston is the 2 seed in Illinois' quadrant. They'll get Cleveland State. So, as I talked about, that potential second round with Loyola out of the Valley or Georgia Tech. What do you think about that, Craig?
Yeah, you say potential Loyola Chicago. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't know. They do. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they get it placed.
I think Loyola is a good MVC team. I really don't think they're that great of a team overall. They play really good defense, but I honestly think Georgia Tech wins that game by double digits. I watched some of the ACC tournament, which Georgia Tech won to clinch their their automatic qualifying a spot, and I was pretty impressed. Josh Pachner has a former Memphis coach, has a quality squad. In the Ramblin' Wreck, the Yellow Jackets. So I don't think we get the Illinois versus Loyola Chicago matchup that all Illinois and Chicago media would like to see. And honestly, I don't like that second round matchup for Illinois. Georgia Tech's an ACC school that could upset some people. I don't like them as the 9 seed. I think that's going to be a really quality second round game. But as we were talking a little bit, as I tweeted as the bracket was released, selection committee really loves those storylines. They can say that they don't, that it's unbiased or whatever, but to put Illinois with a potential second round matchup against Loyola Chicago and then Oklahoma State as the 4, they are fishing for storylines. Brad Underwood's former school as a Sweet 16 game. I mean, I thought they were deserving of a 3 seed. So I think that put them in the 4 line. They're looking for that Sweet 16 Illinois-Oklahoma State game. But I think for Illinois, if you get past that, I don't think the bottom half of the bracket is particularly tough. No. West Virginia is okay. I don't know if I've seen a second of Houston play, but they play in the American Conference. I feel like Houston's one of those teams that always underachieves in the NCAA tournament. So I think the top half, getting to the Elite 8 is going to be tougher than getting out into the Final 4 for Illinois.
No, I agree. I think Oklahoma State is now. I'm not going to say that Oklahoma State is the second best team in that quadrant, but I think that's the most intriguing matchup for sure. If you're looking at who has the best potential to upset Illinois, I think it might be Oklahoma State. Cade Cunningham is good.
Yeah.
He can play.
Yeah.
He can really play. And there's a reason he's probably going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. But that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Earlier in the year, like a month, 6 weeks ago, I would have said I do not want to be in Tennessee's region. But I think they've kind of leveled off. I think they were a top 5 team at one point in the country in the AP polls. but they're a 5 seed. I think they've got potential. I think they're pretty good. They're just inconsistent. So they're one of those teams that could make a run if they start clicking, but they could also lose to Oregon State, who's on a roll and won the Pac-12. So all in all, I don't think it's the toughest region, but there are some tough games that Illinois could run into on their way to the Final Four.
For sure. There are definitely some matchups that I would have rather that I'm glad that they avoided. I mean, Ohio State is a 2. I'm glad they avoided that one. Ohio.
Well, I think yeah. I think the selection committee, I don't know if they call it a rule, but I don't think the 1 and 2 seeds, they try to avoid putting the 1 and 2 seeds from the same conference. So I was confident we weren't going to have Iowa or Ohio State as the 2 seed in Illinois' bracket.
But when you have the same conference has 2 1s and 2 2s,
it
makes it a little more challenging to do it. Not that it's impossible. I mean, obviously it's possible to do that. It's mathematically very easy, but it makes it definitely a little more challenging. So, but yeah, as I said, there was definitely some matchups that I'm glad that Illinois is able to avoid. Not having to see Gonzaga until the national championship game potentially. Is probably the best thing about it. I think that was probably outside of earning the Big Ten championship title. I think that might have been the biggest thing to come out of this week. Was getting on the right side of the bracket. I think if there's any, I'm not trying to say that Illinois is going to beat anybody in the country. That's not what I'm trying to predict here. But, if I'm looking at all these teams, who's the team that I think Illinois would probably struggle the most against is probably Gonzaga. And the fact that Illinois was able to get on the right side and not be stuck as the 4th number 1, I think is definitely an advantage for them. But we'll see. There's definitely a lot of basketball to be played for the Illini. So we're going to have some fun starting here on Friday.
I mean, there could have been a case for Illinois to jump Baylor for the 2 overall, but
I thought it might have been after Baylor lost in the semis or whatever, the Big 12.
But I think you hit the nail on the head with just avoiding that left side, just being the 2 or the 3.
At that point, I wasn't concerned. I agree. I thought Illinois might have been the 2 overall, but I'm very content with the 3, just to avoid that side. So, just some other things to make a note of. They should have gave Michigan Appalachian State.
Oh my gosh, I know. I know. I was so hoping
that. Talk about storylines. That's a storyline they avoided.
Yes, that's true.
But that's a thing. Ohio, the team, not Ohio State, the Ohio Bobcats, who Illinois struggled with early on in the season. They're in the tournament. That's a fun team to watch. I haven't watched them since, but I'd be excited to take a look at see where they're at now.
I know they won the MAC, but they were like the 5 seed in the MAC, which when I saw the bracket, I was like, whoa, what happened during their regular season? But then they go out and win the tournament, and everyone's going to get to see Jason Preston, who put up. Did he get 30? Did he drop a 30 spot on Illinois?
He was good, man. He was good. But they're in the tournament as a 13 in Gonzaga's region, out in the West. I say the West, it's called the West, but it's all being played in Indianapolis, so it really doesn't matter.
I didn't even think about that.
The Valley and the former Valley matchup at 11. I'll tell you what, there's a couple of interesting play-in games.
Yes,
you have Michigan State and UCLA as a play-in game. A couple blue bloods, a couple of UCLA hasn't exactly been a powerhouse the last decade or so, but I mean there are a couple of top tier programs, and then Wichita State and Drake getting the second bid from the Valley.
Last team in
going up against Wichita State, who is a former Valley foe. That's gonna be a fun one.
Drake was the last team in. I'm glad to see that. I think they've had some injuries, but when they were rolling there, they were a lot of fun to watch for a Valley school. They're pretty athletic. And I was texting Logan about Wichita State the other day about them leaving the Valley. it's obviously because they left the Valley, but they also fired Greg Marshall, so they're a lot. I hate them a lot less because of those two things. So I really like the playing games. I really do.
Yeah.
With both of those, Wichita State, Drake, and UCLA, Michigan State, the 16 seed playing games. Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
How do you feel about Creighton? Are you still I mean, you're from Southern Illinois. So here's the thing.
You're talking just like hatred.
Just in general, because you brought up Wichita State. I'm not talking about their matchup. They get
gotcha.
Santa Barbara, whatever. I'm just talking in general because you brought up Wichita. I'll just say, from my standpoint, I'm not from Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
From Central Illinois. U of I was always my school.
Yeah.
I did go to Southern at a time where Southern Illinois athletics, especially basketball, was not good. So to me, there really wasn't much of a rivalry there. I watched Doug McDermott shine, and I enjoyed the heck out of that.
True.
So, like, to me, I don't really hate Creighton like some people do. But as a Southern Illinois born and bred person who also went to school there, what is your feelings now in 2021 towards Creighton?
I mean, they've been out of the Valley has it been a decade now? Close to a decade?
Yes.
I mean,
it's close. It happened my junior or senior year in school. I don't remember what year it was, but I just didn't know if you were still hating Creighton.
No, okay. It's been so long. I honestly don't even matter. What scares me though is their performance in the Big East championship with this team. They got railroaded by Georgetown, who is terrible. But the Creighton SIU rivalry was amazing for that run from 2001-ish for SIU to 2007 or 8. It was amazing. I went to multiple SIU Creighton games. I just told you this story a couple weeks ago through text. Back in the day, I think I was 13 or 14. They ran a contest through McDonald's, the Southern Illinois McDonald's, that you just sign up and you could be the towel boy that sat under the basket, like on the basket standard. And you just go wipe the floor if someone fell, whatever. So I signed up and I won, but I couldn't do the game that they wanted me to do or something. And then by the time I was available, I couldn't do like multiple games. So I handpicked. I was like, I want to do the Creighton game. That's the only game I'm available for. And they're like, okay, whatever. And I think Creighton was ranked at the time, and SIU beat them. And I remember 30 seconds before the buzzer sounded, someone that worked for SIU was like, when that buzzer sounds, stand on the basket standard, because if you don't, you are getting trampled by the thousands of dog pound students that are going to rush this floor. And so I stood there and just watched the whole wave of the bleachers just run by me. I'll never forget that. Yeah, that was fun. But
that'd be cool.
That's enough MVC talk.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Moving on from that. So yeah, that's the West bracket. Gonzaga's quadrant. I think they're definitely the favorite to come out of that side. Iowa is the two there. Again, Iowa can shoot. Iowa has a really good post player in Luka Garza. Their defense is questionable. I was good enough to get out of probably the bottom half of that bracket.
Yes.
I don't know that they don't have enough to get past Gonzaga.
No, Gonzaga averages 92 points a game. Iowa cannot stop Gonzaga. What I thought was interesting in that bracket is you've got Kansas as the 3, Virginia as the 4. Those are 2 of the 3 teams that had to pull out of their conference tournament because of COVID. I just saw Tony Bennett just now said that they had the 1 player test positive and they've had no other positives since. So they'll either be without that player or he'll be very late arriving to location. But if either of them have another, that bracket, I don't even know the protocol. Would the replacement just go right into that seed? That's kind of crazy.
I haven't read into this, and I was listening to Greg Gumbel kind of explain it during the selection show. I still don't totally understand how this works, because they were talking about something to do with conferences and different things.
Yeah.
But there's also there's the 4 teams that are technically their replacement teams. So I don't know.
It's like say if I'm just looking at the bracket, if Colgate were to get a positive test, Louisville would not take Colgate's spot. Whoever Colgate beat in the Patriot League Championship would take their spot. But if Virginia, who is an at-large team, does have another positive test, then Louisville would just, I'm assuming, jump right into that 4 seed.
It's the at-larges.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
It's the at-larges.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it would work. Yes, Louisville in that instance would then take over for whoever, Virginia or whoever. Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting because they're both in that quadrant of the bracket. Yep. But yeah, I think that's definitely Gonzaga's bracket to have.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance they could run the table and finish the season undefeated.
Yeah.
I think there's also a chance that they could Gonzaga it and not, but I'm not sure who in that side is really going to do that to them.
Yeah. I think it would have to be Iowa, but
it'd have to be.
I just don't see it. I think Gonzaga pretty much runs through that.
No, I agree.
Unless Virginia, they can put the clamps down on you if they're playing well.
It's possible.
So I guess Virginia would be my one because I don't see Kansas or Iowa or Oregon or USC. I don't see any of them. So Virginia would be my one.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's happening.
I agree. We'll move over to the South. That is the other bracket on the side that Illinois is on. Baylor's the 1 seed there. We kind of talked about that a little bit. Team that Illinois saw earlier in the season. They're the 1 seed there. North Carolina and Wisconsin. That's an interesting one there. The 8 and the 9. That could go either way. That's definitely a really interesting 8-9 matchup. I think Wisconsin has enough there, but we'll have to see. Villanova's there. Purdue's in that side as the 4. Texas Tech is in as the 6. Arkansas is the 3. Ohio State's on that side as the 2. So as you look at the South region, Craig Schote, what are your thoughts there?
I like the UNC Wisconsin game itself. When it popped up, I tweeted that North Carolina could beat Baylor. Honestly, and I quickly got a reply from @FamilyMan13. Do you know that person?
Yeah, probably. He's probably gonna listen to this show too.
I got a reply from Tim Lee. Can UNC beat Wisconsin? Wisconsin, I've been disappointed in Wisconsin more than anyone else in the country this year. I thought Wisconsin would win the Big Ten preseason. So much experience, but I don't think they're very good. And North Carolina's playing some good basketball. So I think they could. I think North Carolina wins that Wisconsin game, and I think they give Baylor a run for their money. This bracket has one of my 12-5s. Winthrop taking down Villanova. Villanova just lost. Is it Connor or Colin Gillespie?
Yeah.
I think that's his name, to a MCL or ACL injury. Winthrop, man, that's a name that Illinois fans don't like from a couple of years ago. They upset Illinois at the State Farm Center. But then I think it's pretty chalky, the rest of the bracket. I know when Arkansas Colgate game was brought up, the guys on the desk at the selection committee were really excited because that's
a lot of points.
Yeah, that's 2 teams that score a lot. They got Colgate scores 86.3 per game and Arkansas scores 82.4. Yeah. So first to 80 or first to 90 wins that game. Nothing really sticks out for me other than that. I think Ohio State, Arkansas probably on a collision court. I got it pretty chalky. I got I got a Winthrop upset, but then I got the top 4 in the Sweet 16, and I think Baylor Ohio State could be a really good game. That's 2 very similar teams. Baylor defensive. I don't think they have much size, which Ohio State does not have hardly any size. So that could be a good game. But other than that, nothing really sticks out.
No, I agree. I think Baylor's the team to come out of there. I wouldn't be shocked if Ohio State beat them in the Elite 8, but I wouldn't predict that to happen. So the Midwest, we've already talked about Illinois' region. Do you see the Illini coming out of that? Do you see an upset anywhere? I know we're obviously biased. And you're wearing an Illinois shirt. So obviously this is going to be a little biased of the show, but
Yeah.
Do you see an upset there?
I
Anybody?
actually thought about the shirt. And we're on a show here and we're trying to be unbiased, but if anyone goes to our Twitter pages, they're gonna
We're
see.
not
So
biased. Like we're not. This is what it is.
This is what it is. So who cares? I like the shirt, whatever.
The Cardinals flag and a Blues flag behind you. So
yeah.
it's not like we're not.
I think the days of, and using this term loosely for us, broadcasters, TV people putting their biases aside, like everyone grew up with being fans of teams. Let them be a fan. Whatever. We're fans of Illinois. You're fans of the Cubs. Got the Cardinals. It's whatever. All right. I think if Illinois gets past Oklahoma State, they're in the Final Four because, like I said when we were breaking down the bracket, I don't think Houston's all that strong. West Virginia, they've got players that can play, but I just think they're playing so well. I think they come out of that bracket, that East, not East. What are we in? Midwest region. I got them beating West Virginia. And this is not my final bracket. This is the bracket was released. I did a quick top of my head run through. I actually have Rutgers beating Houston in the second round, but I think Illinois does come out and get a Final Four berth out of this region.
I agree. I think Oklahoma State is probably the biggest challenge there.
Yep.
And I think they'll be able to get past them. So I'm going to do it. I remember I used to do it all the time as a kid. I always filled out 2 brackets.
Yep.
And this was even before like 04, 05. But, I had one bracket where I had Illinois winning and I had one other bracket where I had, whoever else winning. But
yep.
I think I have to. They're obviously a 1 seed for a reason.
Yep.
I think Illinois is coming out of that quadrant.
Yep.
And then we'll go to the East or Indianapolis bracket 4. It doesn't really matter. That's Michigan's. They're the one interesting matchup there with LSU and the Bonnies of St. Bonaventure is the 8-9. Saw both of those teams play today before Illinois started. Georgetown, as you mentioned, who came out of nowhere. Patrick Ewing was not happy about the security staff at Madison Square Garden.
I forgot about that.
Fueled his team to a Big East title.
I will say, Madison Square Garden is a tough place to get around.
Ask Spike Lee.
It was not. It was cool to be at, but I feel Patrick Ewing there.
Did you get? Did they check your ID seven times to get down to the court, or?
No, they were just not to get too much on a tangent, but I was there for the Big Ten tournament when the Big Ten 2018, I think, had it out there, and like there were it was after all of the games had been played. I was trying to shoot the stand-ups for the story the next day, and they wouldn't even let me out on the court to shoot the stand-ups. They're like, you got to go outside. You can't record in here. I was like, I'm not going outside. So it was just a little bit of a pain work-wise for that trip.
Should have just done it at Times Square.
Oh gosh. I got yelled at by police. That's a whole nother New York trip's a whole nother story.
We have a long run of podcasts to do, so we'll talk about those stories later. So yeah, Georgetown's the 12. They're gonna get Colorado's the 5 seed there, so that could potentially be a 12-5. The way Georgetown's playing right now. Florida State's the 4. UNC Greensboro's their matchup. And then at the bottom, we talked about the Michigan State UCLA play-in game. That's going to be fun. I mean, I remember last week we talked about the Big Ten. I said Michigan State might have been a team that would surprise some people. They obviously didn't in the Big Ten tournament. We'll have to see if they're able to do it in the national tournament. But that's the 11 play-in game, and the winner of that gets BYU, who's the 6th seed. Texas is the 3, and Connecticut, UConn's the 7. They get Maryland, who's the 10. So that could be interesting. And then Alabama is not a football school anymore. Apparently.
Yeah,
they're a basketball school.
Yeah,
they're the 2 seed. They're going to get good old Rick Pitino. And Iona, who's the 15. So
yeah.
Looking at the East, you seeing chalk there? Or you seeing an upset somewhere? What do you got? I
think this is the one region most likely that the one does not make the Final Four.
I agree.
But I don't know who it is. Like I said, I filled this out. I've completed it, but it's just real quick, first look. What do you think? And as I was going, I'm like, I think this is a very top heavy year. I don't foresee who could be coming out of this bracket. Therefore, I have Michigan coming out of the bracket. Alabama has their weaknesses. I don't think they're all that consistent. I don't trust them. I think they're really good offensively, but I think they have their struggles. Texas, I think they've got a ton of players, but I don't trust them as well. Michigan is the same. I think Michigan's probably the best team in that region, but they're slumping. They're not playing their best basketball, and they just lost maybe their best or second best player in Isaiah Livers.
Do we know, is he not going to play?
He said today not to rule out a return. I saw a story with him, but if
he's on the court, I think they're the favorite out of that quad. But
yeah,
I don't know. As you said, I'm not sure who it would be.
You're right. I do have a 12-5, like you mentioned. I have Georgetown over Colorado, but the Sweet 16, I have the top four: Michigan, Florida State, Texas, Alabama. And I do have Texas beating Alabama and then Michigan beating Texas. But
is your Sweet 16 all chalk?
On this one, no.
I haven't filled out a bracket yet as of right now, so I'm sure I'll fill out 17 of them tonight.
Filling out brackets are my favorite thing to do. So as soon as I could,
it's not quite as fun now that it's all automated.
Yeah.
I used to love just actually writing it in and highlighting winner. Like that was my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
All chalk though? Not all chalk so far?
No, I have one Sweet 16 team that is not a top 4 seed.
Ooh.
And they are a team.
Have we already talked about them?
I said it straight up on the show already. So you just don't listen to me.
Nobody asked me to listen to you. They just asked me to talk.
They are a double-digit seed that has not been in the tournament since 1991.
I don't remember. Who was it?
Rutgers.
Oh, you said that?
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely wasn't listening to that.
Yeah, I got them beating Houston in the second round.
Okay, I missed that part.
And I said this Friday in a group chat with a bunch of my friends. I don't understand how Rutgers was a 7 seed in the Big Ten. I mean, Geo Baker, Miles Johnson down low, Ron Harper Jr., who's the other guy? Jacob Young, point guard. One of my favorite point guards in at least in the Big Ten. It gets to the paint really easy. I don't understand how they were a 7 seed. I think they have a lot of potential. So again, this is just a very, very rough draft, not doing any research, but I got them in the Sweet 16 and they're in Illinois' bracket or region. So my Final Four on this one is chalk though, all number ones. Because I like I said just a couple minutes ago, I think it's a very top-heavy season, which means it's probably going to be 4 crazy teams in the Final Four.
Well, let's just hope one of them is orange and blue.
Yeah, and not Florida.
We're not biased though, and not Florida, and not Florida.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll probably fill out 17 brackets tonight, and I'll have a lot of options, but. When you get down to it, though, who's your national title? I know you're going to fill out multiple brackets and you're probably going to have multiple scenarios, but if I'm just asking you to pick one, where are you going? What's your Final Four and who's winning it all?
It's so tough to go undefeated in any sport. But when you play in the West Coast Conference, I guess it's a little bit easier. But I do think Gonzaga they're legit. I think they would probably win any conference in the country. So I do have them. Yeah. I mean, Corey Kispert, Jalen Suggs, Drew Timme, who Illinois was really close to getting, I believe. And I think the lead recruiter to get him to Gonzaga was Stephen Gentry, who is now an assistant at Illinois. Because when we first met Gentry, when he was hired, we did a scrum interview with him. And someone asked him about his recruiting. And he said, I won one recruiting battle that looking back, I wish I had lost. And it was him.
Yeah.
So I think if not the lead recruiter, he was on Gonzaga staff when Drew Timme committed to Gonzaga. They have a former Saluki. I don't know how much he plays. I haven't looked at their stats.
Enough. I mean, he's 8th or 9th. I mean, he does play.
I mean, I just think they're really good this year. So I have them beating. I do have Illinois in the national championship, losing to Gonzaga. But
rough. My rough draft at this point. That's what I have as well.
I think it's going to be very popular.
After I dig into it a little bit, I might change it, but I mean, I have to go with my heart too, and put Illinois there. I think they're a different team than they were when they played Baylor the first time. Baylor's really talented. If that's the Final Four matchup, it's going to be a doozy.
Yeah.
But I would, at this point right now, I would go the same thing. Gonzaga over Illinois in the championship game.
Yeah.
So,
but going through it, I got a lot of chalk, which worries me, but I'll do the same. I'll dissect. We've got an extra day this year because the tournament doesn't start till Friday. So we got an extra day to do research.
Me up. I didn't even. It starts on Friday, and then the next weekend is different too.
Next week starts on Saturday.
It's always been Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but now they're doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the next week is Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Yep.
So I think they might lean into that because I think Monday, Tuesday is probably a little better TV wise for primetime stuff than Thursday, Friday.
That's a good point. So
they might lean into that down the road, but obviously that is a COVID measure now. So it's going to be interesting. A lot of good matchups to come. We are going to have a lot of basketball to talk about here the next few weeks. Not like we haven't talked about a lot of basketball up to this point. I know some people have asked me, what all we're going to talk about on the show. This is our 4th episode. It's been a lot of basketball to this point. It'll be a lot of basketball probably from now to the end of March. But I can assure you, listeners, we will talk about other things as well.
Yeah, eventually.
But right now, basketball is very much on our minds.
Yep.
And we have a fun team that we follow that we've been happy to talk about. So, Craig, before we wrap it up, anything else that you want to talk about?
If you we talked a lot about brackets today. If you would like to fill out a bracket, and enter it in a contest, and hypothetically put some dinero on it, if that is a thing you would want to do, slide in my DMs or something. Send us an email, which is on the opening slide of our YouTube. It's nooneaskedus2021@gmail.com. My Twitter is at Craig W. Choates. Logan is at the Logan Lee. Just message one of us on there. We'll get you all the details to enter a bracket challenge with us and see if you can beat the experts.
Okay.
Those of you that don't watch and just listen, Logan just had the biggest smirk on his face because we are not experts by any means.
I've had some good bracket years in my day.
Yeah, I've won a couple. But if you are interested in that, shoot us a message. We'll send you the details and we'll get it going. But other than that, let's get excited for a good weekend of basketball. Next week's episode for us might be a little delayed because of that. We might wait to record till after all of the first and second round games have been played, especially Illinois. If they play Sunday night, we probably will not record Sunday night, which they do play Sunday night, correct? Yeah.
They will play, assuming they win their first round game, they will play on Sunday. The time has not been determined. It'll likely be a later game because it's going to be prime time or because they're a top seed, but we don't know that for sure. We don't, as of recording, I'm sure we will know by the time this comes out. We don't know times for Friday either.
Yep.
But yeah, as you said, we will likely be a little bit delayed next week. We'll probably record on Monday or maybe even Tuesday, who knows? But we'll make sure to share that out when we are and when that's going to be available. So I think that covers everything for me.
That's all I got.
Everything for you?
That's all I got.
You want to talk about Drew Brees. Drew Brees retired.
Yeah, I was going to
see that. That was just a drop in the middle of the Big Ten championship game.
News dump.
just
Bad
an
day.
adorable
day,
Instagram post, an adorable Instagram post with his kids celebrating that their dad's going to be home to hang out with them all the time. So yeah, that was a
first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. Was there any question? This isn't a Yachty Molina discussion. This is Drew Brees.
Oh,
yes. Drew Brees is the first.
Okay.
Bazinga.
We got to go. We're out of time.
He's Craig Show, and I'm Logan Lee. This has been No One Asked Us. We'll see you next week. Go Illini. Bye.